Federal Prison Time with RDAP and we've been very blessed to have Todd Hansen joining us live. This might be his last appearance for a while. 17 years, a while. It's quite a long time. And just to kind of let you guys know right now up front, Todd's got a lot of loose ends still that he's taking care of. So we're going to try to keep the interview portion of this video to about 20 to like 40 minutes ish, right in that time frame. So make sure you guys, if you've got questions, you're posting them in there so we can let Todd answer these questions. So Todd, welcome to, it's nice to have you on here live. And I'm going to let you talk to the audience a little bit here and let you say hi to everybody.
Hey, great to see everyone. I really can't thank everybody enough that actually spends time in the chat room, all the regulars and everything. I really draw a lot of support from you guys and girls. I know that I've actually been fortunate enough to also speak to a couple of you. And I just want to let you know it's made my time so much easier, and what I'm going through just so much easier to accept and stay positive. All of the comments from everyone, the emails, the texts, the phone calls and everything. Yeah, I really can't thank everyone enough.
Awesome. I think we lost audio, Todd.
Did you lose audio? Can you hear me?
Yep, you're back.
I tell you what, Dan, if you can tell me the questions, I'm going to go ahead and close my YouTube.
Okay. Yeah, I'll let you know as they come in. So obviously I think one of the questions I have, as all of you know, I went to federal prison myself. I went through the waiting and the frustration and what's next and the anticipation, but I was facing worst case scenario. I thought I'd be looking at 2 or 3 years worst case. So Todd, you're getting ready to potentially go get a 17-year federal prison sentence. And I think you said you're starting off in a medium. You got less than 72 hours from now when you're going to be facing a judge that more than likely is going to remand you, meaning you're not going to stay out on pretrial. So not only are you going to be starting your sentence then and there, more than likely you're also going to be going over to, because it's in South Florida, Palm Beach County, you'll be heading over to the local county jail over there off of Gun Club. What is going through your mind right now, really understanding that this is happening? Like, where's your mind other than the joking aside? How do you really feel?
I'm scared shitless. I'm adapting. I'm trying to, stay calm. I'm trying to get all those last minute loose ends and everything in place. I'm kind of focusing on some of those minuscule tasks in order to keep my headspace right. So I'm not just freaking out and, thinking about the length of my sentence or anything like that. Some of the things that I found that have really helped is, once again, 3 times a week, I'm in the chat room. That helps enormously, calm my mind, try to get some of my fears down. It's really made me realize also that, I'm going to federal prison. It's going to be horrible. But I have to say, listening to some of the other people that have, loved ones in prison already, whether it be husbands or spouses or children, it seems like it's actually much worse for them. It's really made me realize that. It's made me love my own family all the more. So that's kind of like why I jump in 3 times a week. That actually helps me deal with a lot of the anxiety and stuff that I have, hearing other people's stories, knowing that you're not going through it alone. It makes me identify with my crime and also other people, that have made these huge, grievous mistakes in their life and are now looking to pay for them.
Okay, well, we got a question here from Brian. Brian James. Todd, what has been the hardest part about the lead up to going in? Taking care of your affairs, fear of the unknown, etc.? Question mark.
Definitely fear of the unknown, Brian. That's always been my fear. I'm the same as everybody else in the chat room. I'm terrified not of, all the stuff I've read or, seen on videos. I'm afraid of what I haven't read, what I haven't seen on a video, what I don't know. So definitely for me, my biggest fear has been the fear of the unknown. And in terms of, leading up to it, I can tell you that by far the hardest thing for me is when I initially got notified that there was an investigation. And, number one, I made the huge mistake of trying to justify my actions. And then I compounded it by not accepting any sort of culpability, trying to manipulate the situation, influence the situation, do basically all of this crap that somehow still let me be that image of myself that I had in my mind of, I'm a good guy. I'm just misunderstood. I didn't really do anything wrong. It was other people. I've got attorney opinion letters telling me everything I did was legal. Trying to. It was such a hard rationalization going through in my mind and finally accepting my guilt and my actions. I really feel that if I had accepted it earlier, I would have been in a much better place with the prosecutors, with the investigators. And I think it actually would have cured a lot of my anxiety and the fear about the unknown. That whole trying to justify it and, convince myself that I was still this good guy, that I had, somehow made a mistake. A mistake is something that you make when you're typing a document on Word. I committed a federal crime. It's not a mistake. It's a character flaw. It's a character fault. If I had realized that sooner, I really think that I would have had a much easier time of it. And I think that I would be looking at a lot lesser sentence. My guidelines are 168 to 210 for months. And the worst part about this whole situation is knowing that not only did I do it to myself by committing the crime, I literally made it at least 30, 40% worse by that whole not owning up to it, trying to influence or manipulate the federal government, the same bullshit that I've been doing most of my professional life. Every time that I ran into a problem, if I couldn't buy my way out of it, I'd try to influence, I'd try to manipulate. And I thought that, that would work with the federal government. The federal government is too big, it's too broad, there's too many investigative arms. It's impossible to lie, manipulate. They find out.
So you would say if you had to narrow that down to what you would think is the hardest part about this is still the unknown of what's next, which I think is probably a lot of people that are getting ready to go through this. That's definitely going to be everybody's number one fear. At least that was mine. Johnny had a question on there. Johnny wants to know, obviously you're out on bond right now. Johnny wants to know, why would you be getting remanded when you go to your sentencing? And he wants to know, is it because of the amount of time that you're facing? I already know the answer to that, but I'm going to go ahead and let you answer that, Todd.
Yeah, kind of a two-part answer to that one, Johnny. Number one, a lot of it is about the length of time that I'm facing. They're obviously afraid that I'm going to try to bolt, even though I've been doing really well on pretrial. I think that's, always going to be one of their fears when someone's looking at such a lengthy sentence. But what I didn't know before, and I know now, is it also has an enormous amount to do with the judge that you pull for your sentencing. Some judges remand everyone to custody, which is what my judge typically does. Doesn't matter if you're looking at 5 months in jail, maybe a year of supervised release or multiple decades in prison. He remands typically everyone to custody.
So it's pretty much this judge, regardless of the crime, regardless of the amount of time you may be looking at, this judge is just known for remanding people regardless. So that's kind of the reason why he's getting remanded, Johnny. So for those of you that are out on pretrial right now, don't automatically jump to an assumption that you're going to definitely get remanded at your sentencing. It really is case by case and judge by judge. That was a pretty good question. Brian wants to know, Brian James is asking, how your family is doing through this. I know your wife is with you and you've got, your mother and other family members. So kind of touch on how you have dealt with your family in this whole situation.
I tried to use every moment that I was out on pretrial in order to make sure that my family was going to be secure and be able to get over the emotional hurdle of me facing such a long sentence. So I really tried my best to spend as much time with my family. They've been extremely supportive to me. I have to say, unequivocally, it is much harder on your family members. We're going to, I'm going to federal prison. Most of you are going to go to federal prison eventually. If you're out on release or if the feds are even investigating you, more than likely you're going to federal prison. It's very hard to evade a federal charge. It's different. I committed my crime, but now I see all the debris that it's truly created. When they ask you about victim impact during your PSI or when the judge or the prosecutors ask you, your victim impact is really every family member, every friend that you have as well. I'm the one that committed the crime, yet my entire family is going to pay. My friends are going to pay. I think it's much harder on them. They have a harder time at it. Everyone tries to put up a strong facade. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. If I'm not wearing my strong facade face, I'm trying to deflect something with humor. My family members are kind of trying to do the same thing. I think that they're going through kind of some sort of bastardization of that whole hierarchy of grief, that everyone spoke in the chat room about 2 sessions ago.
Well, it's funny when a few minutes ago before we went live, Todd, you and I were testing and making sure the microphone and the cameras were working, and you received a phone call from some friends of yours. And what's very unique about this situation that a lot of people won't know until they get down to it is friends start popping out of the woodwork when they know you're getting ready to go away. They start almost hovering around trying to see what they can get off of you. Personal belongings, things that you might want to sell. They start making you like ridiculously low ball offers, almost like if you're at a flea market and he's got to get rid of it. He's going to prison. What is that like, having your friends call you up and kind of vulture? I don't know if vulturing is the right word, but kind of vulturing,
the word you're looking for.
kind of vulturing around like your carcass. Is that a very weird feeling?
It's a weird feeling. I got to tell you, it's been going on for a couple of weeks now. People, I'm going to be at my sentencing in 72 hours. Instead of my friends calling me up, hey, Todd, man, how you hanging in there? You need anything? Is there anything that I can, provide for you? Dude, I'm going to hook you up on commissary. Is there anything your wife needs? Any last minute stuff you need done? Instead, I got people nickel and diming me for, furnishings in my house and all the rest of this crap for pennies on the dollar. I bitch about this to my wife, and my wife, comes up with it. You have shitty friends, Todd. You are going to federal prison because you have shitty friends. You've surrounded yourself with shitty friends and shitty business sorry, I'm cursing too much. But you've surrounded yourself with these people. Why are you surprised now when they're trying to nickel and dime you and, peck out your eyeballs before you go to prison, you surrounded yourself with these people. And she's right. A lot of the situation that I find myself in, I don't want to make light of the fact that, I'm a bad guy. I committed some very grievous crimes, but at the same time, I surrounded myself and enabled myself with all of the wrong people. And really now, I'm just seeing that in a much more visible fashion when they're coming to pick my carcass.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate, man, and it happens all too often. And for myself as well, I really was able to identify in the very end that a lot of the people that I thought were close and really cared, and they were there to go get a drink, they were there to go out and party, they were there to go out and spend money, but when it came time to need people's support, need people to sometimes just to have an ear to listen to, they were really nowhere to be found until they found out all of my stuff was at my house. And kind of like what Todd said, the vultures flock around, and it's really makes you kind of second guess your own choices and your own decisions. Todd, so your mother is 74 years old and she lives in Arizona. You said you saw her about 8 months ago. How is your relationship with your mother? And if that's something you feel comfortable speaking about, what kind of relationship do you have with your mom?
It now, as an adult, it's been great. She's wonderful. I live in South Lake Tahoe. She lives in Phoenix, Arizona. Before all of this happened, about once a month, I would drive from here over to Phoenix, about 17 hours. We always drove just so that we could take the dog with us and everything. And, I love her. She's a great lady. Unfortunately, because of her age and the length of my sentence, I've come to the understanding that I will more than likely not see her again. Hurts. And let me tell you something, the hurt isn't really about, that I love my mother so much, which I do. It's more the fact that I actually put her in this situation. This woman, this little old lady is going to go into the end of her life and her death not having her son. Not only not having her son, but knowing that her son is in federal prison. It's a shitty thing to do to somebody.
Has she opened up to you at all about how this has impacted her and how this has made her feel, and how she potentially feels about maybe never actually physically seeing her son again?
We're very close, and I know this is going to sound weird, but probably not all that weird to a lot of people. We usually don't talk about, difficult subjects like that, anything that has too much emotional charge to it. We've kind of poked around at it a little here and there. She's definitely let me know that she's going to support me as much as she can, but also letting me know that she's extremely disturbed, that I have this character flaw and I committed these crimes. So she's pissed, but still loving.
And I brought that question up because obviously it's a touching subject to imagine never seeing your parent again. It's almost like somebody dies today, you're never going to see him again. And doing such a potential lengthy sentence, the possibility of your mother not being around, something happening is a very likely possibility. And I think it's important for those of you that are watching right now, if you're going through any kind of beef with your family, you're not getting along, somebody's holding a grudge, somebody's not willing to be the first one to step forward and open up, and you might be getting ready to go to federal, or you're not even going to federal prison. But for those of you that are specifically that might be getting ready to go to federal prison, don't go into federal prison harboring feelings or feeling any certain way, try to communicate with your family, because who knows what happens. And Todd's probably not going to get to see his mother again. That's one of those things that he knows he's gonna have to deal with. Nobody wants to deal with the passing of a parent. And definitely you don't want to deal with that when you're stuck in federal prison. So really use this situation that Todd's going through, something to, if you need to make a phone call after this video and go call a friend or family member, a son, a daughter, don't let your ego get in the way of that. Todd, we had another question here from Jesse Tang. Todd, what do you think you're going to miss the most while you are in prison? Where do you start on that one?
Yeah. Actually, let me just think about that one for a moment. I would really have to say it's going to be, the peace that I've actually finally found being at home and not chasing the brass ring. One of the unfortunate situations that this whole thing has caused is I've learned so many life lessons in this last year and a half, in the year and a half that I've basically been out and in this limbo. And I've learned all these lessons, but now I'm going to have to go so long before I can put any of them to practice. I'm going to miss not being able to influence, not only my own life, but the other lives around me with what I've learned only in this last year and a half. If I had have learned some of these lessons long ago, not only would I not find myself in this situation, but I also believe that I would be just a much happier man. What Dan had just said before too, I just want to stress that if you've got some sort of weird situation in your life, an estranged parent or sibling, daughter, son, whatever it is, now is the perfect time to really reach out, use this to reconnect. They're more than likely going to be the only people that are going to support you during your journey or will even give a shit about you when you're gone, no matter what happened in the past.
Yeah, man. And that's something that all of you that are watching, you really have to decide when that moment is right for you. And I'm still sitting here just watching you talk going, God, you're getting ready to go start a 17 years prison sentence. That's just such a long fucking time.
We're still hoping for just a little bit less than that.
Yeah, no, I know, but it's like you're so used to not getting any type of positivity thrown
I've
your
had
way.
nothing but bad news from that.
I know. Yeah. So it's like, why is it going to stop now? But let's hope that's the where the wave changes course a little bit. Michael is asking, why are you going to a medium?
Mostly because of the length of my sentence and some things in my background. I don't have a criminal history or anything like that. But unfortunately, when you have an obstruction of justice charge and you've tried to, lie and play games with the government, I think that they kind of then go the extra mile to make sure that your journey is going to be a little bit more difficult. Also, typically when you get remanded at sentencing, if you're facing a lengthy sentence, you're always starting out in a medium.
Did they give you any kind of idea as to how long you would need to stay in a medium setting before you could go to a low?
Unfortunately, no. All of that information typically will only come after sentencing.
Because I know
they did tell me that 18 months you can switch, but I don't know if that's for security classifications or just the prison itself.
Yeah, I would be real interested in knowing in your exact situation in what actually forced the hand to put you into a medium, because I know I met guys that have uh as long as you've got under 20 years, you can be in a low. And I've definitely met guys that have got more severe crimes than you that are now finally under the 20-year mark, and they've gone to a low. So I'm wondering if the information that you're being given about you going to a medium could slightly be
I can only
maybe a
hope.
little bit incorrect, because it would be really nice to see you land in a low.
Yes.
So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Let's see here. Other than that, let's see. We got some other questions here. Um,
And I'm hoping that you know, even if it is a medium, I'm hoping that I will soon be able to qualify for a low. And then because of the length of my sentence, I mean, it shouldn't be too long before I can even go to a camp.
right. I think under 10 to hit a camp for men. So, between your time off, your good time, and all that stuff, you shouldn't take too long to be under that 10-year mark, especially if the judge gives you a little Christmas gift in March and knocks a little bit of time out of the gate. How long have you, Sean asked, how long have you been on pretrial for?
I want to say probably about a year, 10 months, 10 months, a year, somewhere right around there.
Okay. So he's been on pretrial now for right around a year. And that's pretty, I would say anywhere from a year to 2 years is probably where the standard is, unless it's a super fast, time's moving, you're in some weird county that just pushes you through. So 10 months to 18 months, 2 years, somewhere right around there is usually, I would say, a pretty typical amount of time. And do you know what level you're going? Oh, yeah, we already know that. What level you're going to start at in prison? When they say start, what did your criminal history land at? That was a 1, right?
Correct.
So you're at a criminal history level 1, and what was your base offense level? Do you remember?
I think my base offense level was actually like a 6.
6.
But then it went up to with all the enhancements and the level jumps because of the amount.
Ouch.
Yeah, it jumped way up to 168 to 210.
168 to 210. So yeah, you're up there in the 30s then now.
Yeah.
All right. So Chris had a really good question. Once you're finally settled in prison and adjust, what is the one thing that you're looking forward, the type of life that you're looking forward to in federal prison? And it's different asking you that than it is asking somebody that might be going for 2 or 3 years. If you're going for 2 or 3 years, you still got the mindset of you're not going to get too comfortable because you're going to be leaving soon. If you're getting a sentence, I would say, of 10 or more years, you've got to come to the mindset of this is going to be home. So you don't want to sit there and daydream all day long about the streets and the real world. You kind of want to make prison life your world in a sense, in order to help you be able to deal with the time. So what is it that you're looking forward to once you really get into the routine of your prison life?
Thankfully, I've got a plan. I'm going to use the time as productively as possible. I'm 48 years old. I've spent my entire life basically chasing the brass ring. I've been very successful in business. I've also had abject failures. But everything in my entire life has always been about what exists outside. The bigger house, the better car, all sorts of material pursuits and wealth and, everything else. I would really like to utilize my time in prison to just focus on now what's on the inside, because that's what I never gave any sort of time or attention to. I was always interested in just what went on around me and, keeping up with the Joneses, getting the bigger and better things, winning on the business deals, getting better business deals, investing in the next thing. I think that if I can use all the time to search within myself and, concentrate on meditation, reading about, you know, the mind and, you know, basically how I can change some of my behavior, my values, my goal sets, you know, working to change those. I think that with such a lengthy sentence, I really think that I can make a huge impact on my values and my goals, which obviously, because I'm a criminal, are very skewed. So that's what I plan on utilizing that time for. I want to look internal and I want to basically build a better me instead of, you know, learning about, you know, some new business or some new scheme or trying to, you know, oh, how am I going to talk better so that I can sell better when I get out there? How can I? That's the stuff that I've always focused on. This is where it's gotten me. Now I want to focus on just being a, you know, being a better me. Everyone tells me, you know, and like I'm spiritual, but you know, but everyone's always asking, you know, oh, you're going to find Jesus. You're damn right I'm going to find Jesus. I'm going to go looking for that guy as soon as I can find Todd. Once I find Todd, I'm going to go find Jesus next. But first, I'm going to spend a lot of time trying to find myself.
Well, you might find the funny thing in that is, Todd, is you might find one and the same. You know, you might realize when you find one, you might find both at the same time. At least that's how it was. That's how it was for me. When you do that, when you do that real type of internal searching and really wanting to better yourself, you start to allow anything that has a positive edge to it to enter into your life. Because whether it be Jesus, whether it be, you know, Tony Robbins, whether it be some dude out on the compound who you never would have imagined in a million years having such a profound impact. But I've noticed that, like you and many others that are going through this, we kind of we transform into this sponge that maybe if we would have become a sponge earlier in life, we would have taken some of the advice that was given to us that we've completely turned away and tried to do things our own way for the longest time. So this might be the first time in your life, Todd, and maybe the first time that you're aware of it anyway, and the first time that a lot of you that are watching this video, that you're aware of your flaws and you're hearing it from other people, and it almost feels like you're hearing it for the first time, but this might be the first time that you've made that transformation into a sponge. That's how I always looked at it. Is I was told since I was young that if I don't stop doing these stupid things, that it was just going to get me into trouble. And I always ignored it, thinking I could just outsmart it better the next time. I always felt like I could keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. And eventually, like Todd said, when the government gets a hold of you, they are so massive and their numbers are so strong, their money, their pockets don't ever end. You cannot combat that with a quick tongue and an okay, you know, pocketbook. They will slaughter you where you stand, almost like you don't even see it coming. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the comments that you make right now on how you're feeling right here and now, and then reading your letters and emails, because as all of you know, I'm going to keep in touch with Todd while he's in prison, keeping in touch with him and finding out where he's at in his journey. The things that we know you're probably going to work on. You know, you seem like you're trying to get your health better. You're trying to work out. You're eating right. Aside of that, Todd, and I know you've got other things to do, but I do have a couple of more quick questions for you.
Sure.
When you were first going into this, obviously your frame of mind was completely different. You were
Yes.
figuring it out how you were just going to beat it.
Bastard.
So saying that is obviously a first step in, you know, admitting your flaws. But when you started preparing properly, what did you feel when you went in for your PSR interview? And I know a lot of you are getting ready to do that, and you've got a lot of questions about that. So being yours is kind of fresh, Todd, what was the PSR interview like, and what do you think made you stand apart from, because I remember you saying that they were really impressed with you. Why do you think they were so impressed with you versus the other 6 billion people they've seen before you?
Once I actually started taking action, doing weekly reports, really going way above board on the volunteering. I've always volunteered. Unfortunately, even during my crimes, I was volunteering. So volunteering has pretty much always been a part of my life for the last 3 decades. But when I really started going above board, when I started to realize these changes and how bad a person I had become, and I started taking action, it became almost like a new addiction. Um, any sort of volunteering, anything that I could do to help somebody out, it made me feel better about myself, because this whole time I'm coming to this realization that, oh, I am a shitbag. So the more I worked on trying to become better or trying to help others, it made me feel better about myself, because I was feeling so guilty and just so bad, realizing what I had done. So that by the time that I went to my PSI, I just had reports and reports of all of the volunteer activities, the write-ups, the speaking engagements, talking to employer groups, just this huge wealth of information. And I was emailing these people once a week, not the guy that was doing my PSR, but my pretrial services officer, and this whole host of mentors that I created, that mostly I just found online by looking them up. Hey, who's interested in prison reform? And I would find other people. I mean, people with university credentials, working in the University of Oshkosh, Wisconsin, University of Ohio. These guys, they're teaching criminal justice. One guy did 8 years on a federal bid. Another guy, I think, did 6 or something like that. They helped me. I wrote them emails. Hey, how's it going? This is what I'm going through. Can you suggest anything? Can you help me out? I had no idea that a lot of these people were felons and everything. Not everyone, but a lot of people, they wrote me back. They helped me. They held me accountable for my actions. They really helped me along, not in terms of, hey, this is going to look better to the judge by the time that you finally go in front of them. That was my whole thinking when I started. And then later, it was just about changing my behavior. I actually started to feel good because I was taking action. This fear of the unknown, when you're on pretrial and everything, it's miserable. So by taking action, I felt better. And when I went for my PSR, I dazzled that guy. And yeah, because of the crime that I committed and everything, there's no way to get over the federal sentencing guidelines. But I think that if anybody is going to get a break or can at least demonstrate remorse, I think I really did my best job possible. And it was by taking so much action, massive, overwhelming action every day. You want to know, how you get the gun out of your mouth, how you forget about, I'm going to go, every time you think about taking that toaster to the tub, call somebody up, look online for someone that can help you out, that you can add to your mentor network, someone that you respect, someone that you want to be like. This whole thing, like I have with my friends, and I'm sure most of you have with friends, you surround yourself with idiots, you become an idiot. Anytime that you're, wondering who the smartest guy in the room is, know damn well it is not you. You need to surround yourself with better people. A lot of these mentors, especially older people, they want to help people out. And yeah, a lot of them write you back and say, God, you should have got the fucking death penalty, you little bastard. And you get some hate mail and stuff, but hey, you know what? You committed a crime. But a lot of people write back and they try to help.
It's funny because it's obviously really easy to pass judgment on people, and something that you really said in that statement that applies to so many different areas, whether it be RDAP, whether it be your personal narratives, your character reference letters, you had said that when you initially started it, your whole purpose and intent was to just hope to look good in front of the judge. And that was your main reason. And just like anything else, like RDAP, for an example, most people that go into RDAP specifically, the only goal they have in mind initially when they do it is to get the year off. People that say they're going to go into prison and they're going to go find God or find Jesus, a lot of the times that gets obviously dismissed from people watching out because they're like, oh, of course you're going to go look for God now. You're in prison. So now you're back to a corner and you're scrambling around. The thing that a lot of people don't understand, and I think that you grasp it, Todd, is because you just spoke about it, is it doesn't matter what your reason is for starting down a halfway decent path. What you'll find out so many times more than not is your initial reason for why you're starting to do something right will change by the end because you start to form new habits and this new person starts to be created. That's what I mean when I say it's going to be really interesting to talk to you in several months from now, because there's still so many things that you're trying to do right now to mitigate your situation. And whether it does or it doesn't, these are going to have profound, lifelong impacts on you for the rest of your life. And there's so many things that you've done from the time that, like, when you and I mean, just tell them a little bit about when you and I first met, how our conversation went within like maybe the first 20 or 30 minutes. And I think you and I met, I'm horrible with time frames, but was it September, August?
Yeah, I can't remember either, actually.
Well, touch a little bit about what you and I spoke about and why I think you and I kind of connected so well.
Yeah, I called you up. I was, looking for advice and everything. I was addicted to the YouTube channel. And you said, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself. I told you about myself. I told you about, the crimes that I committed, a little bit about my background. And you were like, well, how you doing now? Tell me about your life now. How you dealing with, being out and, waiting for everything. I said, I'm doing fine and everything. I'm trying to keep up a positive attitude and everything. And you're like, okay, so, tell me what your average day is like. I'm like, I kind of, I work, I do my volunteering thing and everything, and, basically I just go about my daily business. And you said, what are you driving? I said, yeah, I drive a Range Rover. A new Range Rover? I said, yeah, new Range Rover, the new Range Rover. And you were like, so you committed a white collar crime, millions and millions of dollars, and your dumb ass is still driving a $160,000 automobile. And you asked me to get rid, and actually you didn't ask me, you told me, get rid of the truck, you idiot. I think that was one of our first conversations.
Yeah, that was probably the very first conversation, and it just seems to be a little bit of a denial, or and not with you specifically,
I
but
was
in
still
general.
justifying, yeah.
And whenever I talk to a lot of the white, specifically, let's pick on the white collar guys for a minute. A lot of white collar guys that have been used to making a lot of money throughout their day, even when they get in trouble, they think they're downsizing. They think that, the feds are taking their stuff, but yet you look around, they might still be driving a halfway decent car, whether it be a BMW to a Range Rover. And if you've got victims in your crime, I know we've identified your friends and family's victims, but I'm talking about victims that you owe restitution to. In your case, it's millions, right? That's the restitution order, Todd?
Yes.
Okay, so we're talking millions of dollars in restitution. And here you are preparing to go to court, preparing to go to sentencing, where you're hoping that you can find an ounce of like heartfelt dignity coming from the judge to where he might for somehow look at you and have some kind of sympathy and give you a Christmas in March. And one of the first things he's going to look at is you've got victims, What attempts have you made to pay them back? How is your current lifestyle? If you're still living in a six-figure house and you're still riding around in a very expensive car, even in some cases a six-figure car, and you're walking to sentencing, the judge is going to chew you up and spit you out. So when I can say something to a client like that, and you got to remember, guys, just because I'm a prison consultant and I'm trying to do this as a living, it doesn't mean that just anybody is going to jive with me. It doesn't mean that just anybody is going to be able to work with me. If Todd wasn't willing to kind of open up and see how this potentially could cause him more harm than good later on, it's going to make it really hard for me to do anything if you're not willing to take any advice. Todd, I think, what was it, that weekend or the next weekend? The next day
I got rid of it.
What did you do? You got rid of the car, and what are you driving now?
A used Toyota Tercel, which I love, to tell you the truth.
So, and I think you even said to me, getting that Toyota Tercel had that same new car feeling because it was a different car, just like the truck did when you got the truck.
Yeah.
So that's the point, guys, is you have to really make sure that you're looking at yourself from a very objective view and try to put your mind where prosecutors and judges and probation is going to go when they're looking at you to see what you're doing. Remember, judges, prosecutors, probation have been doing this for a long time. This is their business. They are professional. They are trained. They know what to look for. And those are some of the first red flags that they're going to see that they won't say anything to you about right now. But later on, when you need something from them and they want to use it against you, believe me, you're not helping your case by leaving those type of exposures out there. So from that point forward, Todd and I really, I felt like this is the type of client that I like having because he's looking to really better himself, whether he sees it for the right reason. He's looking to go down the right path. And like I said, it does not matter why you're starting down that path. As long as you go down it, it will all turn over in the end and it will make sense. You've done an amazing job with your letters, your personal narrative, your character reference letters. You have taken every single tool that was available to you and have applied it to where you could to hope for the best possible outcome. So I don't think that you could have done anything different.
I don't think so. At least I'm going into prison. I'm not going to be one of those guys that lays in their bunk and just has all sorts of regrets of what they could have, should have done. I did everything that I possibly could in order to change my footprint. All this crap that I did before in my life, I at least attempted to atone. And you're right, at first I tried to game the system. That was the whole reason behind, the weekly updates and all the letters and the articles and the volunteering and the speaking engagements. But then it became something more. It actually started to give me peace. It took away a lot of my anxiety. I felt like if I took massive, overwhelming action each day, it'd keep me from taking the toaster to the tub. And it helped that. And now I'm prepared for sentencing. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. The worst crime would be if I spent all that time in prison and, basically didn't come out better. So now I'm just focused on, I'm going to go in, I'm going to use the time to make myself better.
And that's all you can do, Todd. And I'm really, really happy that you were willing to do this tonight, because I know, like I tell you all the time, I get text messages, not just during when I'm doing the live show, but I get text messages all day long. Like, hey, tell Todd we're thinking about him, or are we going to be able to talk to Todd again before he takes off? So I know that you've got a lot going on, and for you to stop what you're doing to jump on here and talk to everybody, and I know you enjoy it too. So I know this isn't like torture for you, but regardless, all the same, myself, everybody in this room really, really appreciates it. I know there's probably questions that people didn't get a chance to ask. And if you guys that are watching, there's 14 of you in the room. If anybody has any last minute quality questions that they would like to ask Todd. I know Todd's got to get taken care of some other
I've got
things.
a few minutes. I want to make sure I can answer everyone's questions, just because I know that they're terrified as well about going in.
Okay, good. So if you guys got any questions out there, you know, now's the time. Not that you can't ask them later, because we can always relay and get answers. But if you want to be able to hear it coming out of Todd's mouth, ask now or forever hold your peace. I'm still just, God, I'm still blown away. You know, I've got clients that have already gone in and they're getting ready to get out. I've got a client getting out on the 29th. Hunter Moore, which a lot of you maybe have followed him or haven't followed him, but you know, he went in and back out again. You know, it's going to be a great day when we see, when we get some news that Todd's, yeah. And, we just got a good luck Todd from, hey, what's going on, Javier? Javier's in the room. Javier's, his fiance is serving time right now. So it's good to see you in here, Javier, building that community. But there's a lot of people that care about you, Todd. Nobody wants to see this happen to anybody, especially not somebody that doesn't seem like, look, we know you fucked up. We know, you know, you've got millions of dollars of payback to do. You've got a lifetime of retribution that you got to give back to people that you've wronged. But I don't think 17 years, in my opinion, is, you know, the answer. But I'm not the judge, and you've got to deal with this. I've got somebody asking, looks like we might have a new user in here, Todd, and you can feel free to answer as much or as little. It looks like Ann in Blue asked, they wanted to know what you did. And I know you don't want to talk too much specifics about it, but if you want to talk about anything personal.
You know what? I had, you know, I would rather, you know, it's cathartic to actually fess up to my crimes now. I'm charged with conspiracy to commit money laundering and making a false statement to a federal agent, which is an obstruction of justice charge. That's what I pled guilty to, and that's actually the crimes that I did commit. I'm not innocent. You know, I did what they said I did. You know, I have extreme remorse for it. Unfortunately, I can't go back in the past and change it. And if you do the crime, you do the time. I'm going to take the punishment for it.
So when you say, you know, the money laundering part of it, we all understand that. And then you said you falsified information to what was the falsifying of information? Do you specifically was it just something as you said? Was it a statement?
I lied by omission to federal investigators. There was some shameful incident in my past where I faked educational credentials to get a online part-time job. And this was years and years ago. I self-corrected the behavior, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And because I was still within that mindset of trying to justify my actions, you know, I tried to tell myself, oh, you know, I never got caught. You know, I didn't get found out. You know, I didn't get arrested. I didn't get fired. You know, there was nothing like that. And I left the position on my own before I was found out, and then stopped lying. But it didn't matter. I wasn't honest with the investigators that were questioning me, the DEA and the FBI specifically. And they charged me with obstruction of justice, making a false statement. Here's what happens with something like that, because this is very important. A lie by omission is, of course, still a lie. It's just like your mom and dad always told you. If you lie by omission, it's still a lie. But more importantly, by doing that, I took away any hope of leniency by the prosecutors or getting a 5K1, you know, being able to cooperate and maybe get time off of my sentence or anything else. Because once you lie and you have an obstruction charge, there's no way in hell they're going to put you on a witness stand. There's no way they're going to believe another word that you say. And by lying to them, it doesn't matter if It was years in the past. The fact that I didn't bring it up when they asked me, they're questioning my character and everything. It's, looking at it from their side, it's unforgivable. I had the chance to come clean. I would have just, all that I had to do was mention it. It happened years ago. It's not like they were trying to arrest me or prosecute me for it or even cared about it. But the fact that I lied about it and didn't tell them, it goes towards my character. It shows that I'm someone that can't be trusted. They can't trust me to, to basically tell the truth, to try to cooperate against others or maybe help them out with another investigation to get a 5K1. Because you lie, you're done with. They're never going to want to give you a break again.
So just to be real clear, and correct me if I'm wrong. So when you lied by omission, you basically were lying about your education. So they were asking you about your education, which the question they were asking you really had nothing to do with the instant offense of the crime. They were just going through, so tell us about yourself. What's your education, this and that.
The question was, did you ever engage in criminal behavior before? And were you ever previously arrested? And I said no.
And you weren't previously arrested, but you did.
But I did engage in criminal behavior.
And that simple answer to that simple question right there is pretty much what put a giant nail in your coffin.
Yes, it did.
So
I
now,
actually think that hurt me more than the conspiracy to commit money laundering.
Well, that's just what I was going to actually get to. So let's just stay on this for a minute, guys. Make sure you don't get too lost off in translation with what Todd's talking about. So Todd explained his crime, what he did, and then he explained where he really, really made a fatal mistake. They were just asking him some general questions about his past. Has he ever committed a crime? Has he ever been arrested? Has he ever engaged in any criminal activity? And Todd said no, when he clearly is telling us he did, because he created false documents for a degree that he needed for a job. So now, if you would have told the truth right there, likely what is the amount of time that you think you would have been looking at versus the 17 years that you're looking at right now for the crime you committed?
Capped at 10 years. Capped at 10 years, which means I probably would have done 6 or 7.
So you guys really need to grasp that gravity, what he's talking about right now.
When you lie, number one, every question they're going to ask you, more than likely they know the answer to. They're huge, they're powerful. When my discovery came back to me, I was amazed at the amount of information that they have. And when you lie by omission, when you don't tell them something, because of my actions, I basically took advantage of the people that actually did hold those credentials. I created victims. People signed up with me and stuff like that and basically got taught by an imposter. I created victims. Just because I didn't get caught, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if I fixed it. Doesn't matter if I stopped by myself. None of that matters. I did it. And it was that whole thinking, before of, but I didn't get caught. I didn't do anything wrong. Now I realize that when I do something wrong and I don't get caught, I have still done something wrong. That is the realization that this whole thing has taught me. It's not just about, okay, I didn't get caught, so, somehow that doesn't exist. Never. I really cannot stress this enough. Don't be put in the same situation, that I was, thinking just because you spent your entire life manipulating and trying to influence situations, that you're always going to be able to do that. You cannot do it with the federal government. And really, now I'm held accountable for that. And quite frankly, I'm going to use every year of my sentence to make sure that I don't somehow ever fall back into thinking that shit is somehow right, because I didn't get caught or because, this, that. all the other justifications you tell yourself every time you're fucking up.
You know, there's all these sayings out there that people have always said since we were kids. You know, it's easy to do the right thing when people are watching, but it's when no one's watching is what do you do then? And what Todd's really illustrating, guys, is we talked about it earlier. The prosecutors, the judges, the attorneys, they know their business. They are trained professionals, trained assassins. They know what to look for when they're building a case. They know, like, let's say some of you are getting ready to go through this and you're thinking about cooperating. You got to imagine that the prosecutors, if they're going to use you to potentially testify or stand up, get up on the stand, or if they're going to use you for cooperation, they want to make sure that there's no holes that the defense can be used against them. So they're going to ask you questions, knowing the answers, wanting to see how you're going to act when they think that there's no pressure on you. If you start exposing that you're just going to lie right out of the gate, you're going to ruin all of your chances. A, you're probably not going to get anything from them. And B, look at what's happening to Todd. He was looking at 6, 7, a max of 10. Now he's looking at very likely getting 17 years. And like he said, that obstruction, that fatal answer he gave sounds like it's more sabotaging than everything else that he did with his crime. So you guys really have to pay attention to how delicate this situation is, to make sure that you do not fall victim to these same mistakes, because it's so easy to say something thinking, well, they didn't ask me directly, so I didn't really lie. You're playing all these justification games in your mind. And if you can stop yourself from doing that by learning from Todd's mistakes, learning from others' mistakes, I think you guys have a strong chance at getting a better end result. Todd, I don't even know what else to say to you, my man. I know everybody in here is just praying for you, and everybody wants to see, a positive outcome, regardless whether.
Better.
What's that?
I'll use the time to make myself better. It's not the end of the world. I don't have cancer. Nope. My wife didn't divorce me. I'm not dying. And quite honestly, I deserve every day I'm going to serve in there. This will teach me the lesson that, is coming with all the lessons that I've learned over the past year and a half. I don't want to be like this. I don't want to be the person that I was. This will hopefully fix that.
Todd, did you request a specific prison? Are you trying to go somewhere specific?
The answer to that question is no, just because I know that more than likely I'm going to start off at a medium, and then I'll be able to basically try to pick a low. But by that time, I will have heard from other inmates kind of where to go. So that's what I was hoping. That's why I didn't pick.
Well, what state would you like to be sentenced in as far as visitation?
I'm going to try to go. Yeah, I'm going to try to go to Herlong. Herlong is about 120 miles from me.
Okay. I know I asked that. Sean was asking what prison that you were trying to get sentenced to. And I obviously, looking at, there's so many options for you to look, not options, but there's so many different scenarios to look at.
Or Sheridan. Both of them are mediums, and both of them also have camps. Both of them are RDAP facilities.
Yeah, I believe Sheridan has RDAP at the camp as well.
But they said, that whole 500-mile thing doesn't really count anymore because of the overcrowding. They kind of send you wherever the bed space is.
Prisons are definitely getting overpopulated now. Well, guys, I know you guys appreciated Todd coming on here as much as I have, and we're going to look forward to what's next for you, Todd. I know you're going to stay active and busy, and I imagine we're going to get some insane, crazy, positive crazy, not crazy crazy, but positive crazy stories from you on I really see you doing a mentor program in prison once you've been there a little bit, just because it's kind of hard not to follow you and get addicted to the personality. Somebody that's looking at doing 17 years. And I mean, just today alone, guys, I don't know if we didn't talk about this, Todd. Todd had the U.S. Marshal show up at his house twice today, just today alone. Imagine the anxiety and rush of like, what the fuck did I do now? Having the U.S. Marshal just pop up at your house, not once, but twice, already knowing you're probably going to get remanded at sentencing. So you're like, man, do they think I'm going to run? Are they here to grab me? Like, what's going on? What was that like?
Scary. It was the forfeiture order for my residence, which of course is just trying to make restitution to the victims that I created. But yeah, very scary. Just because once again, I thought that they were coming to take me. And I know it's just a couple days, but when you get close to that, just a couple days, every day really counts. But thankfully, everything turned out all right. And I have to say, throughout my journey, I mean, the U.S. Marshals pretrial, I mean, Dan's got the same pretrial officer that I do, Ken Goldberg, and even the prosecutors in my case. I mean, these have been all, they're decent people. They're not any different than you and I. A lot of, there's been, some people that really want to crucify me. I committed some very grievous crimes. But other people that I've met through the system, especially in my pretrial service officers, both the one here in Nevada and the one in Florida, they've really helped me out. They've given me a lot of good advice and a lot of good life skills, and they've held me accountable for my actions. They don't care about me just going to prison. I think they actually honestly care about trying to make me a better man.
Well, that's good. And I know, you found out today you had to, you already knew you were forfeiting your house, but today it became real, and they're letting you know what you got. You got a month basically before your wife has to relocate.
Vacate the premises.
So what's her plan? Do you know where she's going to go?
Right now it's a little bit in flux.
Okay. So you got some things to figure out still. And as you guys can see, this is an ongoing mystery of there's so much to plan and prep for. So try not to just sit around, and, Todd's been doing everything he can do to prepare and get ready to go. And, we're going to be right there with you, Todd, watching to see what's next. And I will definitely check in.
One last thing. Talk to others. I mean, I can't stress enough, talk to others. Don't sit there and watch the chat room. Start talking to people. Start asking for their numbers. I can't tell you how much it helped speaking to a lot of you, and also just being part of a community, people that are going through the same thing. And to all those families out there that have a loved one in prison, my heart really goes out to you. I really have a much better understanding, about how many victims I created outside of my crime, the families, the friends, and everything. Thank you for making that so clear and teaching me that lesson. But definitely contact someone, and start going on the internet, find people, build yourself a mentor network. If you sit at home, you're just going to be thinking about the rope or the gun, or running, which is the same thing. As bad as it is on pretrial, imagine going through 20 years of looking over your shoulder, or some crap like that. And I can tell you, federal prison is going to be pretty shitty. Probably still better than the suburbs in Africa, But speak to one another, and just thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Dan. I think you've all made me a better person, and I promise you, I'm going to come out of there a much better man.
Well, we definitely appreciate it, Todd. And if you need anything, we're here. Same thing goes for Diana. I hope she continues to jump in the chat and check what's going on, because your name will get brought up quite a bit. So if she needs anything, she can always call, text, join the chat. And like Todd said, guys, if you're sitting in these rooms and you're not talking, I get it. You might need to build up some confidence and need to watch a couple times. But I think your ultimate goal should be able to communicate with others in this room, because there's so many people that have either already gone through what you're going through or could learn from your own experience. And you might have something to share, something to help out with somebody else. And if you don't express that and you don't engage, you might be preventing somebody else from not making a fatal mistake. So that's what we love about Todd, is he's been very vocal, very upfront, willing to talk to anybody and everybody. And he didn't have to do that, but he has. So we really, really, really appreciate it, Todd.
Cool.
Well, guys, we've been going here for, what time is it? We've been going for a little over an hour now. I think we're going to, it's been a little bit of a heavy conversation. So I think we're going to wrap this up, guys. And I appreciate, I'll make sure that once Todd is gone, we have all of his contact information, and it might be a little bit before he gets to his final destination, but I will stay in contact with Diana so we know what's going on, how you're doing. And of course, if anything is needed, please tell Diana not to hesitate to ask us, Todd. With that said, guys, I'm RDAP Dan. This is Federal Prison Time. I will be on here, what's today? Monday. I will be on here Wednesday, same time, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Subscribe, like, share. Guys, everybody pray really hard between now and Thursday for Todd, and let's hope something good happens. Until then, guys, everybody have a wonderful evening. Any last final word you want to say, Todd, or are we all good here?
No, we're all good. Just thank you, everyone.
All right, guys, have a wonderful night. Take care. Good night.